Hello, welcome back. My name's Ali and this is the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast, a podcast about crochet, knitting and fitting in general craftiness into an otherwise hectic life. This is episode 3, have I said that already? Possibly, sorry. Welcome back. If you have watched my previous 2 episodes, thank you very much for returning and coming back for more. It's really nice to get some nice comments and feedback from people and to know that you've enjoyed it. You can find me as well as on here as Little Drops of Wonderful. I've also got a WordPress blog which I've set up but haven't been very good at using to put show notes on, but I also put show notes down underneath as well. I am on Instagram, which I love. I love Instagram as Starry Eyes Ali, and on Ravelry my name is Snip Snap Happy, which I probably ought to change to fit my Instagram name. Really, I might talk about that a bit later. Anyway, so I'm coming to you today from, well, an everyday that I podcast. I haven't moved. I'm coming to you from Kent, which is just south of London in the UK. Coming up in the podcast, it's fairly simple. I'm going to talk about finished objects. I have 2 finished objects. In fact, on the whole, this is quite an exciting podcast for me. I have 2 finished objects. I've got a prize to show you, which I've received. Plus, I've actually done the first 10-row repeat of a lace section of a shawl. Anyway, we will get to that. So, we're going to talk about finished objects, works in progress, stuff I've bought or won in a competition, and some other stuff. And I have been doing a kind of plans for the week bit at the end, but yeah, that's just setting myself up for failure, so I don't think we're going to do that. So I do a little vloggy bit as well, like a 3-minute video just about stuff I've been up to. So maybe we'll just stick that at the end, and that way if you're not interested you can just switch off. This is a really rambly beginning. Should we let's just start talking about knitting and crochet, and then things will come together. So, finished objects. I've got 1.5, I lied, it's not 2. But I'm counting it as 2. It's 1.5. But first finished object, blocked and completed and almost impossible to fit in the screen, is my Hitchhiker shawl, which I have knitted using a gradient yarn which is called Squidette on the Beach from a dyer called My Mama Knits, also known as Sunshine Stewart. So this shawl is the Hitchhiker shawl. It is knit in very simple, I still haven't googled this. You knit every row basically, so that's either garter stitch or stockinette stitch, and I keep meaning to google it so that when I talk about it I don't look completely stupid. But 3rd episode and I'm still just, I haven't done my research. So I started at this end in my gradient, starts very dark orange, and then it goes along and it starts to get lighter, and then you start to get these little pops of pink and then pops of blue. Hope this is all coming out, until eventually it goes to pink and dark inky blue at the top. And the idea of the Hitchhiker shawl is every few rows you bind off a number of stitches. Sorry, I've got my camera the other way round. Normally I have it that way round so the camera's to my left, but I flipped it over so that it comes out the right way, and it's really disconcerting and I might have to swap it back. I'm not sure why I decided to change it. Anyway, you get these little toothy bits at the end. And it's called the Hitchhiker shawl because when you use the recommended yarn for it, a whole skein of the recommended yarn gives you 42 teeth, which is the answer to the meaning of life, the universe and everything. Bear with me, with my 1 skein of Squidette on the Beach yarn, which is 4 ply, got, one moment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 34, 35, 36, 37 teeth. So I'm 5 less. But I really like the size of it. I'm going to see if I can get it on in such a way. It's really hard to do it not looking in the mirror. You think putting like a scarf on wouldn't be difficult, but like anything. I want to get it so that the this bit's at the front. So you get that bit, and then I don't know why I'm making such a meal about putting a scarf on. Anyway, I would probably not do it quite. I'm just trying to get it so that you could see the colours all together. Let's try that again, shall we? And try to make it look a bit less cumbersome to put on a scarf. How would I normally do it? It's because you've got it really wide at one end and then really narrow at the other end, so it doesn't feel quite natural. God. So this is how you'd normally put it on, isn't it? You just wrap it round a few times. There we go. Ah, that's better. So, ta-da! Cosy. It's quite cold today as well. Yeah, that's my Hitchhiker shawl. Finished! Which actually makes it also my first ever finished knitted shawl. It was not the first one I started. We'll get onto that in works in progress, but it's my first ever finished knitted shawl. And I could not be happier. I'm really pleased. I'm looking forward to some nice frosty weather. Well, that looks quite good. Look how that's folded over there. Nice colours. So that is my first ever finished knitted shawl. The next one I'm cheating on a bit. My next finished object is actually half a finished object because it's a sock, and it's also my first ever crocheted sock. Now this pattern is the Hop Socks pattern, and oh, who's it by? Where is my bag? These are living at the moment. These are actually sharing living space with my Crazy Memories blanket in my fish bag, which I made badly, but it does the job. By Vicki Brown. By Vicki Brown. And the reason I couldn't find that is actually now that I've finished my Hitchhiker shawl, I have moved my Hop Socks into my tropical print bag, also made badly by me. So they're going to live in there. Well, actually this one, it's for my daughter. I had a little bit of problems with getting the right gauge. And by the time I just went ahead and made the medium size. So crochet, as you may or may not know, it doesn't have the same amount of give as knitting does, especially width ways. So not length, but you know, that way. And it made a very tight fabric. I don't know if it's the yarn that I use. I'm using for these. This is something else I can't say. The Scheepjes. And I use that, and I had to use a very small hook to get the gauge. So it's made a very close-knit fabric, which has barely got any stretch at all width-wise. Fits my daughter just fine. She's got very narrow feet. She's only 10. Yes, they fit her just well, but she's been wearing just one socks, which is quite appropriate because they're called the Hop Socks. So she's been wearing just the one because she loves it so much. So I've got to crack on now and make the other one. The way it's constructed is you knit backwards and forwards this rib section, and then you pick up stitches around the bottom, and then you start knitting the gusset increases almost straight away. And then it was quite interesting, having knit a few pairs of socks before but never made a crochet sock. It meant that I could follow this pattern really easily because I already understood the construction of a sock. And it also helped me understand more the simplicity of the construction of a sock for when I knit socks again, if that makes sense. Because I find crochet more familiar, I could kind of barrel through this understanding the construction of it because I've knit socks before. But by doing it in crochet, it made me realise that actually a sock construction is a simple one. But because every time I knit socks, it's still something that's quite new to me. I mean, I only knit my first pair of socks a few months ago. So it kind of made me think more about the construction of it. So it's been a really helpful thing to make. I'm going to pop that back in there. Okay, so that counts, doesn't it? That's a finished sock. It's not a finished pair of socks, but it's a finished sock. So 2 finished objects. Okay, works in progress. Right, I've got a few, and I'm going to start with my... Actually, I say I've got a few, but I've got 2 because I finished 2. So I'm lying. No, I've got 3, but I'm really only going to talk about 2 of them because I've got sort of in time out at the moment. I've got my Wildflower and Honeycomb socks, which I'm, excuse the lifeline, which I'm making out of Cascade. It's Cascade Heritage Sock yarn, 75% merino superwash and 25% nylon, and it's colour 5626. It's a lovely, lovely colour, and it's a lovely, lovely pattern. Oh, see, wrong. The camera's there. Right. I hope that hasn't affected how I've shown everything else. Yeah, so it's got this lovely kind of lacy pattern. However, it's taken me so long to do it that I think it's going to be too small for my eldest daughter. Although looking at it, I'm thinking it'd probably be about the right size for my youngest daughter. So maybe I'll keep going. Anyway, I'm not going to talk much about those because they're in time out in my little... I don't think I've shown you this before, but this is my little sort of made up drawstring bag, which has just got ribbon that I had lying around, some organic blue fabric, and then I've got this, oh no, it's now poking up the top, and I've got this Empire State Building fabric that I got in a swap, and it's just got a little boxed bottom, and it's like the perfect size for socks. I have to make more of those actually. I like that size. I hope I wrote down what the measurements were. So, those aside, I have my Strictly socks. Now, I knit my socks 2 at a time, but I knit them on short circulars. So I've just got 2 identical pairs of short circular needles, and I just knit them a little bit at a time until they match. Now, I had a bit of problems with these, which I shall tell you about now. So, I think last time I showed these, they were just little tiny little things. So this one here, I've increased the gusset because these are toe-up socks. These are Sockmatician's toe-ups, and I am using, what was I using? I think it was Drops Fabel Print. I'll put it on the screen. And I'm knitting it on 2.5mm short circular needles. So I've got one that's up to the point where I can do the heel, and I've got one not far behind it, just a few colour stripes behind it. Okay, so one of the problems I mentioned in my previous podcast was the toes, because you start at the toe on DPNs, and then, well, I started on DPNs, and then you work increases. Now, as you can see, it looks pointy. It doesn't matter when it's on my foot, doesn't look pointy on my foot, and I'm sure when it's blocked, it'll be fine. Then when I tried it on my foot at this stage, it felt really baggy. And I'd worked out all the mathematics correctly according to the Sockmatician's recipe, so I couldn't work it out. So I went back again and I measured my gauge. I measured my gauge here as opposed to here. And it's because my gauge, I've written this down. Hang on a minute. Right, I'm back. Right, I wrote this down. So I started, sorry, fringe issues. I started knitting them at the toe, and it was 8 stitches per inch. When I've measured it further up the sock, it is now 7 stitches per inch. So I've reworked it out based on if my original count was 7 stitches per inch from where I did my swatch. And if it had, I should have cast, if I had measured at 7 stitches per inch, I should have cast on 52 stitches. As I was measuring at 8 stitches per inch when I did my swatch, I cast on 60. So I probably should have cast on about 8 less stitches, which would probably make them about the right size. So there was a problem, therefore, in my swatch knitting. The only thing I can think is I knit my swatch on DPNs, 2.5mm DPNs. My Addy Colibri, these ones. These are 2.5mm ones. Addy Colibri, get the right side. And then I moved to my 2.5mm needles, and actually, I wonder if that made a difference. Because these are a bit more, I don't know, they are the same size though, but maybe the tips, I don't know. Something went wrong in my swatching. So, doesn't matter, these are going to make brilliant socks. I absolutely love them. Maybe I'll give them to someone who's got wider feet than me, or I'll probably just end up keeping them to keep my toes warm in front of the telly or in my welly boots. Nothing wrong with having socks that are nice and roomy. But it was a bit of a lesson in, you know, swatching. I don't know how to solve that though. Can you get a different fabric using the same size needles if they're different brands or different makes or DPNs or short circulars? I don't know. I'm new to this, so that's just one of the many things I'm learning as I go along. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my tea. Today's mug is a hug mug, and as usual, it's just tea. Okay. Next work in progress. Oh, so excited about this. Last podcast, both my previous podcasts, I have told you about my Highland Peaks shawl, which is the first shawl I've ever cast on. I was really enjoying it, and there's a lace section for the last bit, for the border. And I must have tried and ripped back this border about a million zillion times, give or take a few. And I was complaining about this, and then someone messaged me on Instagram, Homoko no Sakai, sorry, I'll put it on the screen, I've said it wrong, I know I have, and she pointed me in the direction, very kindly. She said, if you're having problems with lace, there is a podcaster who has done a very helpful video about how to keep track of lace. On Instagram, she is Instamatic Luli, and her podcast is Lee Christensen on YouTube. I'll put it here as well. Known as Luli, and she does a lovely knitting podcast. And she did a whole episode about, oh, not a whole episode, a whole bit in one of her episodes about how to keep track using stitch markers after every repeat. So, as opposed to now having my Highland Peaks shawl, which is just with just the main body of it. So I'm using Drops Baby Alpaca Silk for this. Got grey and red, and then for the border green. But looky, I've started the lace section. Look! Try not to drop my needles in my tea. I've knitted lace. Ah, such a good feeling. I've done I think I've got to do 2 more sections of this. Each sort of chunk of it is 10 rows. So the general advice was stitch markers, stitch markers, stitch markers. You put a stitch marker at, to separate each repeat in the chart. So for this, it's a 10 stitch. So you do a little bit. So there's a little starting 3, then you do a little bit, and then each repeat of the lace pattern is 10 stitches. Now, given in mind I've got almost 300 stitches on here, that's quite a lot of stitch markers, and I don't have that many stitch markers. So at the moment I am using, some of them are actual knitting stitch markers, like my little strawberry. Some of them are my crochet stitch markers, like my little apple. Is that focusing? Let's move my tea out of the way and see if I can do this. No idea, because I can't see. Now, it just so happens that my youngest daughter, Phoebe, who's 5, has just discovered loom bands. Bless her little heart. She's really, really into it. So sweet to see her, you know, obsessively making little loom band creations on her fingers. So I just raided the loom band box, and it turns out loom bands make excellent stitch markers. Can you see? Apologies if you've just got a blurry thing of my hand. I can't see what I'm doing. Yeah, so every other stitch marker on here is a loom band. And it turns out they're absolutely perfect for keeping track. And I couldn't be more proud of myself. So thank you, Homoke, for very kindly taking the time to get in touch with me. And thank you, Lou Lee, for having such a lovely, lovely, enjoyable podcast, and for finally setting me on the path of lace. So I've only got about 20 more rows to do with that, and I can't wait. As soon as this is done, before the school run, I'm going to sit down and do a few more of those. One more work in progress, which is it's more, less of a work in progress and more of a long-term commitment, is, which I mentioned last time, my Cozy Memories blanket. So for some reason or other I find that really hard to say. So Lorraine Pugh of Lorraine Pugh Designs, who's on Instagram as Lorraine Pugh Designs, and has probably one of my favourite podcasts at the moment, actually. I find it really hard to, like, I only started watching podcasts recently. I started with the Knitting Expat and a few others, and I get quite hooked on watching them and getting used to the format of one particular person or just a very small group. And I do find it difficult sometimes to kind of get into, you know, another podcaster's groove. Does that make sense? Anyway, she's got a really nice, relaxed style about her. And I think one of her recent podcasts, she was talking about something completely different. She was talking about personality tests. And, oh, that was so eye-opening for me. I went and did the personality test like she'd mentioned. And I discovered that I am a INFJ personality type. Google it. I won't go into it now, but I was just looking at it going, oh my goodness, that's me. That is totally me. And I was just on Pinterest looking for, I've got a whole board now that I've created, especially. It was eye-opening and it was really useful. Anyway, she's also an incredibly clever crochet designer. She's done some wonderful projects such as the I should really write this stuff down before I sit down to do this. Flight of the Fabled Romance Shawl. Have a look on Ravelry. You'll like it. It's amazing. But she's designed a free pattern. It's a crocheter's version of the Cozy Memories blanket that you see a lot of knitters doing. So it's the Cozy Memories blanket, and it's these little squares. So I've been using leftover sock yarn, but crochet, and this is a really nice floppy fabric that it gives you, not wholly. This is left over from my Hermione's Everyday Socks. This one is a sort of very, very dark one left over from the first socks I made my husband, which were just plain socks, plain vanilla socks. And then I've got some as well from the very first pair of socks I made, which was from the Wimmick Mum's sock along pattern. I've no idea if that's focusing. Sorry if I'm just holding up blurry squares at you. So I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've now got 10 squares. They're all quite dark and quite blue. I don't know why. I don't know why I've got so much blue sock yarn. So I need to get some lighter colours in there now, I think. I'm not generally drawn to blues. Don't know why. Anyway, it's a really good pattern, really enjoying it, really easy to pick up and just like do one square and add to your collection as it goes. So at the moment that's living in there where the hot socks have been evicted from. And I'm just going to keep doing it every time I get some sock yarn. It's going in here and I'm just going to keep doing it until I've got enough to sew together for a blanket. No spinning to show you. I'm having this little... I bought a Behm hand spinner, never spun before. If you watched previous 2 episodes, it's a little bit of a story as to why I ended up buying a spinner and having a go. I just haven't had time. I've had so much other stuff going on at the moment. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I've been working hard on trying to get a mosaic finished. I do mosaics, and I'm trying to do one for our upstairs bathroom, and I need to get that finished because at the moment we've just got a bag sort of taped to the wall covering where the mosaic ought to be. So I really need to crack on with that. So that's kind of eaten a little bit into some of my softer crafty time. So that's been to one side. I've got exciting things to share with you. I'm just going to have a sip of my tea and remember to look here, and I'll be right back with you. Did I mention that I won a competition once or twice? Did I mention I'm a little bit excited about this? So excited. Before I show you this though, I just want to show you something. I don't know, I find this quite amusing. I was at the supermarket the other day stocking up on, feminine products, and I got my usual brand, and it turns out they're giving away handy little tins to keep your feminine products in your handbag. Now, I don't really have the need for that, although it's a very good idea, but they've all got really nice little designs on them. And it seemed a shame to put them to waste, so the girls got one each to keep like little trinkets in and pens. And I kept this one because it's a really good place to keep stitch markers. Little stitch marker tin. Quite funny. Not really for its original use, but a nice discreet way to keep your stitch markers. Anyway, I digress. On to the exciting things. Have you ever seen so many stamps in your entire life? Look at that. That's millions of stamps. I entered the 8,500 subscriber giveaway on the Knitting Expat podcast. Because, and I don't enter competitions really, but I really liked the prize she was giving out. Mina, who presents the Knitting Expat podcast, lives in Bahrain in the Middle East, but she's from the UK. And over the summer she was travelling and they went to Helsinki in Finland. And she picked up some bits for some prizes for a giveaway, and some of which are in here. The reason I liked it so much is I am a big Moomin fan. I watched a documentary about 4 years ago on Tove Johansson, who was the creator of the Moomins, and it was so fascinating, and it really did make me very interested. And as a result, I read all the Moomin books. Never watched the Moomin programme really. I did a little bit when I was little. I don't watch it now, but I love the books and I love the drawings. And this had a bit of a Moomin theme to it, so I thought, well, I'll enter. And we just had to comment in the thread on Ravelry with ideas for baby knits. She did a random number generator, and whose name came up? Mine. So exciting. So I have kept this in a box for well over a week. because I wanted to share it with you before it dispersed. And I also just keep opening the box going, oh my God, it's all mine, I want it. So this is a bit of an unboxing. Obviously I've already unboxed it and squealed and squished and got excited, so. But to give you an idea, opening the box, you have, this is what it looks like. Okay, making a mess of it. Hugo and Derek. That is Mina's two Scottish Fold cats, Hugo and Derek. So I got a little postcard. It says, "Dear Ali, congrats on winning this prize package. I hope you will enjoy all your goodies." Oh, I will. And look, there's two little paw prints from Hugo and Derek. Okay, so first up is the yarn, the Finnish yarn that she bought in all the way from Finland. So this makes me laugh as well. So it's gone all the way from Finland back to the UK, from the UK to Bahrain, and then in a box from Bahrain back to the UK. That's quite nice, isn't it? It's well-travelled yarn. It's not the softest yarn, but I don't mind. You see, I don't mind yarn that's a bit scratchy. I probably wouldn't have it around my neck, but I wouldn't mind it like as gloves or a hat, obviously, because I've got fringe. So it's not going to be against my skin. So yeah, maybe a hat. I don't know. Or maybe I'll try some colour work, or is that too ambitious? I don't know. So this one is called Tuku wool. It's fingering weight, 100% Finnish wool. Colour 03, something I'm going to say wrong, Auri. Can you do it? Is it focusing? There you go. And the other one is the same, 100% Finnish wool in colour Hoka. So I'm really looking forward to using those. And here's one of the little Moomin elements. She bought a little Moomin sort of charm, which can be used, well, as a crochet stitch marker or as a knitting progress keeper. Maybe if I hide my face. You don't want to see me just mucking about trying to get it to focus. It's a Moomin stitch marker and it is so cute and I love it. And also on the theme of Moomins, in my little box of prizes, I got two Moomin notebooks. Beautiful Moomin-esque colours, which I just love. And they are just plain. I don't know what I'm going to use those for yet. I might just keep appreciating them. She also popped in some little washi tape, just some little alphabet washi tape, which is really sweet. And also, oh, little loop bag, which makes two I've got now. Because I got one when I ordered my sock blockers. These are really handy actually. I use these a lot. I use them for like when we go out and about shopping and with the kids, and they're quite handy, you know, if I need something to put snacks in and books, and it's nice. I don't know why, but it's nice to have something that reminds you of the things that make you so happy, isn't it? You know, so it's not just a bag, but it's a bag that has a connection to knitting and crochet. I just really like that. Am I nuts? There's also a lovely little envelope with Matryoshka dolls. I love that. Everybody loves a Matryoshka doll, don't we? Sending you some smiles. And inside is a little card Mina makes. And she's given me another little. We won't muck about too long with this. Little stalk scissors, progress keeper or crochet stitch marker, which I can add along with my Moomin to my tin of stitch markers. Doesn't end there though, there's more. How this has remained untouched for the amount of time it has remained untouched is beyond me. My restraint knows no bounds. when it comes to saving things for the podcast. Finished chocolate. Carl Fazer milk chocolate. And now I've shown it to you, I doubt it's going to last very much longer because now I can eat it. Yum, yum. And then, so exciting about, so I've got a project bag made by, I think she said it was made by her friend Mel. And I do remember in one of her vlogs over the summer, I think when she was in London, she had one in the same fabric as well. So it's got this cute little cat print on it. Now I don't have any pets because my eldest daughter is really, really allergic to animals and any animals really, any furry animal. She really reacts quite badly. I don't know if it's something she'll grow out of, but anyway, we don't have pets. So the girls are really delighted with this little cat project bag, and it's really beautiful, and it's a little drawstring one, and it's got this little handy little D-ring on the side, so you can clip things to it, and inside it, get back into it, you can fold it. It's really hard to do with just okay. So you can fold it back like that, and so that you can set it down and just have it like that open and you know, work out of it. Especially handy if you are travelling in the car. Obviously not if you're the one driving. And there is a really handy little double pocket for popping things. So I've got a spare project bag. I'm going to have to start a new project, especially given that I'm going to have that Highland Peaks shawl off the needles pretty soon, possibly in the next couple of days, if I might be so bold as to say. So I now have this project bag, and I think I was watching another podcast this morning. That's the thing with doing this. Since I'm only on episode 3 of this, but since doing it, I've discovered loads more podcasts that I really enjoy that I wouldn't have had I not done this. And it's also really motivating. Like, I think, you know, I really want to cast that on, or I really want to finish that so that I can talk about it. It's like looking forward to having some kind of, you know, secret knitting obsessive crochet nut meeting to look forward to, where you can just talk to people about stuff that, you know, I do talk to my husband about it, but he just kind of goes, okay, yeah, lovely. Oh yeah, no, that's really well done with the lace. I'm sure that's fantastic. You know, very motivating to know that I can come and talk to you here. What was I saying? Project. Anyway, so I was watching, that was it. I discovered Amy Edwards has a podcast, Stranded Dye Works, her company name is, and I'm not sure what she is on Instagram, I can't remember. Again, I will pop it on the screen and down below. And she had finished the Searle hat by Suvi Samola, and that is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I've never knitted a hat. So I think so a couple of episodes ago I showed you some yarn I bought from Strand Designs. That's quite similar. Strand Designs, Stranded Dye Work. Anyway, this Strand Designs is completely different. It's Karina in Ireland, and I bought a yellow one because yellow is my favourite colour. This one's called Dandelion, or Dandoline. And I got this one, which is Silver Lining. Now I think bright yellow for a hat would be lovely, but I might look a bit like a pelican crossing beacon. I'm thinking that this lovely Silver Lining would make a rather lovely colour for a hat. What do you think? I've mentioned before, I'm relatively new to knitting, and I'm relatively new, I wouldn't say I was the best at kind of being able to visualise how colours will look in a pattern. So this is a nice, this is a plain colour, but it's not, it has depth to it, which I'm never going to be able to show you on here. It's not just a flat colour, if that makes sense. I think it would be nice. So that, and hang on a minute, so that is 425 metres. Oh, so I only need 210 metres, so I still have half of it left. So I think that's a risk worth taking, isn't it? So that is probably going to go into my prize package cat bag for Mina's friend Mel, and I'm going to maybe try and knit a hat. Maybe. Look at me. I'm getting all leery. So, very lucky girl to have won that. Really delighted. I know everyone says this, but I never win anything. And to win that, I was just so delighted. So thank you, Mina of the Knitting Expat. I'm one very happy little prize winner. Right, what else? I'm not going to do plans for the week, as I said. It's just setting myself up for failure. Instead of that, I'm just going to put my little, every week I like to do a little, every podcast I like to do a little vloggy 2-3 minute vlog of what I've been up to. So I'm going to do that right at the end. Although, having said that, there is one thing coming. In November, there's festival is it in Hitchin, in Hertfordshire, which is just north of London. So I'm thinking perhaps I might try and go to that. It's only about, it would take maybe an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to get there from here. My mum's quite interested in coming with me. She's a knitter. So we might make a little day trip to festival. I've never been to a yarn festival. I went to the knitting and stitching show once at Blue Water in Kent and helped out on a stall showing people how to crochet. That was on Erica Knight's stall. I was just demonstrating how to get started with crochet and talking about one of her patterns. And actually she gifted me one of her patterns as a thank you on that day. I'll have to share that with you. I don't know, I think it's a scarf pattern, a crochet scarf pattern which I made. So I'll try to remember next episode, I'll share that with you to show you it, because it's a really lovely pattern. It's quite tricky, it took me a while to get used to, and actually I'd really like to remake it, because I made it with what I had at the time. I made it out of scraps of acrylic yarn, and it looks really good and it's multicoloured, but I'd like to make it with a bulkier yarn and a nicer yarn. So I would do it again. So yeah, remind me, like you're gonna, you know, like we're having a cup of tea and a slice of cake or something. I will try to remember next time to show you that, because it's a really nice pattern. Why was I talking about that? Oh, knitting shows. So that's the only one I've really been to, and because I was kind of working at it, I didn't really look around much, and it was also quite a small scale thing. So festival, is it worth it? Have you been? Yeah, let me know, because I think my mum and I might be making a little trip. So I think that's it for this episode. Do you think I should change my Ravelry name? I'm quite sentimental about my Ravelry name. Snip Snap Happy, and it's Snip Snap Happy because when I first started a blog I had a crafty blog years ago. It's still up there, Snip Snap Happy. I think it was a Blogspot blog, and I think there's links to it from my Ravelry. And Snip Snap Happy was a name I chose because as I've mentioned before, I do mosaics, and I was doing a lot of mosaics at the time. So it was snip snap, as in the sound of the tile cutters cutting the tiles, but also I was into crochet at the time, so it's the sound of cutting wool. And also at the time, my eldest daughter, who was only very young back then, was reading a book called How Do You Feel? It had all different animals, and the crocodile felt Snip Snap Happy, and that's where it came from. But it doesn't make any sense to have 3 different online names, does it? Or does it matter? I don't know. Maybe I should streamline it a bit and change my Ravelry name to Starry Eyes Alley, or Little Drops of Wonderful. Starry Eyes Alley may be better because that's my Instagram name, and that's where I'm most active online in terms of chatting to people. I don't know. I feel quite sentimental about my Snip Snap Happy name. What do we think? Rambling. I feel like this has been a really rambly episode. I do apologise. I hope that it's also contained plenty of lovely yarny loveliness. Okay. losing the plot. Okay, so I'm now going to pop in my little what's been going on vlog, so if you want to stick around and watch that, that'd be great. If not, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed my little podcast. If you did, give me the little thumbs up thing down below. I'll put all the information down below as well, so you've got it to hand, and thank you for watching. Bye. Oh, that's really good.